Right, hi everyone. 9 o'clock, so we'll get going. I'm just going to got a few more people just coming in. Just going to get all them in. Right, thanks for coming. Welcome to the first of our webinars about Umbra. It's a brand we're very excited about, and we're getting a lot of inquiries about. As I say, I think just this morning we've done about. Sorry, got more people coming in. So just before I begin, check. Oh, blimey, they're coming thick and fast. Right, hold on. Let all these people in. Can I just check that everyone can hear me? I can hear myself from outside, so I think I am working. So yeah, my name is Joe Fletcher. I work for OneAV. We've recently started distributing Umbra lines in the UK. As I said, it's a very exciting brand. We're getting tons of traction. This is by far the most interest we've ever seen for a webinar. Certainly, I think that's something like 50 people-ish expressing interest in webinars or training, which is unbelievable. So it's something we're really excited about. I'm going to give you a very quick introduction to OneAV. I don't want to take more than 5 minutes. Just let some more people in. So they're coming in. So yeah, so I'm just going to quickly give you the intro about OneAV. If you don't know us, let me just share this. So we're OneAV. We're an AV trade supplier. So nowadays we do a lot more than just AV. Obviously we're doing blinds, we're doing lighting, we're doing control, we're doing mobile phone boosting technology. So we cover a whole range of stuff nowadays. Just to the side, some lovely photos of us. So why should you choose to work with OneAV? Well, I think the main area we really pride ourselves on is our support, and particularly our pre-sale support. So using Umbra as a perfect example, the way we tend to treat these projects, especially with you guys who are maybe new to the brand or haven't even done a lot of blind installs before, we really see ourselves as sort of the best place to come to when you need a bit of help. And that's what we really specialize in. So, you know, we've done some blind quotes recently where people have come to us, not necessarily know exactly what they need, and we've helped them spec and install the systems. So there's a lot of areas we cover, and we can do a lot for you. We can do surveys, we can do pre-configuration of hardware. We do a lot of this with like Selfie, for instance, mobile phone boosting stuff. We do a lot of, we survey those, we advise on the installation, and it's something we really pride ourselves on. We think it makes us quite different from all the other distributors. 1 second, I'm just going to admit one more person. Yeah, we think of ourselves, we go for that little bit extra, which maybe we don't really see ourselves as box shifters as a distributor. We try and get really involved in your project. We like to think of ourselves as, you know, an extra member of your team as opposed to just your supplier. So we're here to help. And as I say, any questions people have got, if you guys have got, using Umbra as the example again, if you guys have got projects where you need blinds, just after this, send me the details, what you need, what you're thinking, any questions you've got, and I will come back to you as quickly as I possibly can with some quotes and some information about it. And yeah, just to give you a quick overview of the brands we do. So we do a ton of stuff nowadays, but the things I try and draw your attention to that you might not be aware of, we're looking at what other training options we can do. So after this, if there's anything else you'd like training on or another webinar on, the ones that jump to mind is we're looking to do some more Selfie training, because we did a lot of this in the past and it worked really well. Cloud is a brand who we are certainly considering doing some training for, because we find that they're a brand that they're a fantastic brand, but maybe some of their stuff is a little bit daunting if you haven't looked at that side of things before. And maybe Just Our Power as well is another brand, which is an IP-based distribution system. Anyway, I don't want to hold you guys too long because we've got a lot to cover in an hour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Harry from Umbra, who I'm very happy to have with us today. He is the font of all knowledge as far as blinds go. So let me pass over to Harry.
Right, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Just gonna get this up on screen. Right, can you see that?
I can. Can everyone? If anyone can't see it or has a problem with it, just type in chat. Oh, one thing to mention: if you've got any questions, just put them in chat, and what I'll do is I'll pick them up as the presentation goes on, and then I'll go over it with Harry, and I'll sort of put all your questions together. Right, carry on, Harry.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe, and hello, everybody. Some of you I can see on here I know pretty well. Some of you have never met before, so this is the first time. So good to virtually meet you, such as it is. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of Umbra. Who is Umbra? We're a family business in the UK, and it was actually started by my grandpa back in 1975. So it's a third generation family run business now. Our factory is in Swansea, South Wales. So I would say that right from when we started right through to now, there's definitely been a line of shading related passion come through the generations. So it's now predominantly run by Nigel, who's my uncle, and then myself and two of Nigel's boys, Brendan and Marshall, head up the different divisions within Umbra. Our vision from quite a number of years ago, we set ourselves to be a brand of choice for premium window treatments, and getting regularly specified. We wanted to be a go-to company specifically for motorization and integration. Now, we've always made manual blinds, and we probably always will make manual blinds, but the fact is, in the manual blinds market, it's massively overcrowded. There's a lot of very, very competitive, I may even use the word cheap, product. And as a British brand with British manufacturing, it's almost impossible for us to really be competitive in that market because, quite frankly, price on a manual blind is pretty much the only point of difference that you can genuinely find. Whereas motorization, automation, integration, there's always added value to be had. And that goes for us as a manufacturer and also for you guys as installers selling to your clients. There's always value that you can add to these products. So just a little bit about the brand. The ampersand in our logo that some of you might read as Umbra and is exactly that. It is what we call the power of and. So it's the power of partnerships, the power of collaboration. It's about design and technology, manufacturing and installation. The fact is, we're not an installer. We don't also make motors, we don't make fabrics, but we do bring all of that together, and we're relying on people like yourselves delivering our products in a superb way to some fantastic projects around the UK and Ireland, and indeed just Europe as well more recently. So this is where we are. This is the factory in Swansea. Like I said, the sky is always that color in Swansea. Sun's always shining, the sky's always blue. I think this is the point where I normally hear derisive laughs, but obviously you're all muted, so I'll just assume you're nodding along in consent. What do we do? Well, at the factory, we don't just make blinds. We also have an academy space, and this is really critical part of today's presentation, because the academy is an area of our building that we have dedicated to training. And the whole point of the academy is to give us the ability to bring people on board as Umbra customers or Umbra advocates, Umbra installers at an acceptable level. Because ultimately, it's our product and our brand that you guys will be taking to site and in front of your clients. And obviously, all of us want that to be done at the right level. I guess the last thing that any of you want to be doing is getting on site for the first time with a product you've never seen before, and then having to try and figure out how you fit it in front of maybe a slightly over-attentive client. So the point of the academy is to give you the opportunity to actually see the products, have a go at fitting them, learn about the options, learn how to sell it, how to specify it, how to measure it, how to install it, right through end to end, so that you can actually go out and go in front of your clients with confidence and deliver a fantastic shading solution. We also host events, live events. We've got an event space here. It's been fantastic. Over the last couple of years, we've had some great events, installer-focused events, specifier-focused events. But then also in terms of the factory, we like to do as much as we can ourselves. We like to keep as much as we can in-house. We don't like outsourcing stuff. So even things like the powder coating, so custom bespoke RAL colors, that's all done in the factory ourselves. We have our own powder coating plant. We also believe strongly in investing in machinery, investing in the latest technology. And so for that reason, we have, I mean, even this year alone, I think we've spent somewhere in the region of £250,000 on new production machinery. So we are deadly serious about this. And when we do it, we want to do it properly. So why shading? Why blinds? Now, I guess it's, in some respects, it might be an obvious question or an obvious thing to talk about, but I think in this context, it's quite important that we understand why our clients want blinds. Because I don't really want to be selling blinds to someone who just is having blinds just because, well, you just have blinds, don't you? Like they're just a standard thing. That's all right, but if they don't really understand what the blinds can do for them, then they're much less likely to really invest in them. So I want clients who understand that blinds give their house the touch of luxury at the windows. You know, seeing the blinds going up and down automatically is kind of cool. I want clients who understand about glare control, heat gain reduction, heat loss reduction, privacy, and how different fabrics impact privacy. And I think when you start to educate your clients on these factors, or when you start to ask questions of your clients, like, why do you need blinds? Like in this specific room, what do you want your blinds to do? Ask those thought-provoking questions, and then help to educate them about the options. Because when you do that, you suddenly become the expert in front of them, and they start to actually take what you're saying, take it on board, and then they want to learn more and they want to know more, and suddenly they become invested in the product, and all of a sudden they're actually willing to spend good money on it rather than just treat it as another accessory that they have to buy. So this is one of my pet sayings or pet peeves, whatever you want to call it. I'm forever saying it, so I make no apologies for it, but if the blinds are not in the right place at the right time, then they will not do anything. So this is specifically in relation to blinds. When you're using blinds to reduce glare or to reduce heat loss or to reduce heat gain, because one of the most annoying things that we see people doing, specifiers doing, is they'll pick a really nice fabric, maybe for its performance benefits. So they'll pick like a silver-backed fabric that has really good heat and light reflection, and then they'll put it on a manual chain-operated blind. And the client ends up spending a lot of money on a very expensive fabric that then has to be operated manually, and quite frankly, is never going to be where it needs to be to actually do the job that they wanted it to do. And what I mean by that is, if the blind isn't in the right place at the right time, so when the sun is shining, if the blind isn't down straight away, then it's going to be basically useless. Because the fact is, blinds are a proactive, passive cooling method. If you come home to a hot house, for example, and all your blinds have been up all day and the sun's been shining, if you come home and you go, oh, it's warm in here, let's close the blinds, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to, closing the blinds isn't going to make it cool all of a sudden. But if your house reacted to the sun and the heat first thing in the morning, when it started to become an issue whilst you were out of the house, then you come home and all your blinds have been closed all day, then your house is going to be significantly, noticeably cooler than the other scenario. So it's really, I think automation is a really important point in relation to shading. So that brings me on to where would you put blinds? And I guess the obvious answer is, well, everywhere. But this is another mistake that I think people make, is they say, well, we're going to put blinds in the main areas, in the master bedrooms, in the living areas, in the lounge, in the kitchen, and they maybe could say, right, we're going to omit blinds in secondary areas like guest rooms or canteen spaces or laundry rooms, or they maybe put manual shading in those spaces. But actually, on the basis of what I've just said, those secondary areas of the house are potentially even more important for shading than the primary areas. Because things like the guest rooms that aren't being used all the time, if the blinds are constantly up in there, then that room is just getting constantly heated and cooled. And if the door is even slightly open to the rest of the house, it's just acting like a big heat sink, and just heat is going to be escaping out into the house. So I would definitely argue that the secondary areas, from a performance perspective, are almost more important for shading, and certainly automated shading. So I'm just going to quickly flip through a couple of case studies just to show you kind of where our products end up. So this is one that's quite local to us in Wales. Very, very beautiful view out. Quite small project, but lovely private residential project. And then kind of the other end of the spectrum was Manhattan Loft Gardens in Stratford. Some of you may be familiar with the building. It had about 4,000 motorized blinds in it through every apartment throughout the building. And then we have One Tower Bridge. Again, all the apartments there, the penthouses, about 2,500 motorized blinds. Huge project, delivered over many, many months, but fully motorized and connected back to third-party keypads. Then we have a small commercial case study. So Ilex Capital, really good example of just half a floor plate of an office space where they actually wanted some automation to reduce or manage glare and reduce solar heat gain in the office space, which obviously ultimately reduces the demand on their air conditioning, therefore saving them money. Not a bigger commercial case studies, ICC Newport, the convention centre in Newport. If anyone's ever driven into Wales, you may well have come past this on the M4, full of Curolock, automated Curolock, fully zipped edge blackout blinds in there. Another small case study there, again a private residential application. And then finally, a lovely project, Silverdene, with motorized roller blinds, flow curtain tracks, Roman blinds, very prestigious project. So with that, I'm just going to quite quickly go through the different products that Umbra offers. This isn't exactly a training session because that's what we do when you come here, and in an hour I haven't possibly got time to go into the detail of these, but the next few slides I just would like you to take away from it what your options are, and just have a bit of a better understanding of what shading options are out there, and in your minds be thinking of your clients, be thinking of maybe your live projects and your upcoming projects, and having a bit of a think about where some of these products could fit into those and which of your clients might be interested in these products. So when it comes to roller blinds, we have basically two main systems, Evolve and Sirius. So the far left and the far right there of the screen. So Evolve is kind of like our flagship roller blind system. And if you come to OneAV for a quote for a roller blind, the chances are they'll quote you on Evolve to start with. If you haven't kind of given any more context, it'll probably go on Evolve. Sirius then is a smaller, more compact system, not capable of such big sizes, but fantastic for building into small pockets and concealing into roof spaces. So with Evolve, you get a 12-year warranty, and with Sirius, you get a 7-year warranty. And then in the middle, we have Evolve Zero. On the surface, Evolve Zero looks exactly like an Evolve roller blind. So from a client's perspective, you could have an Evolve and an Evolve Zero side by side, and they look identical. The same brackets, the same bottom bars, the same fabric options, the same control types, like motorized controls. But the clever thing with Evolve Zero is its ability to span very big sizes. So it can currently go up to 5 meters wide. And by the end of this quarter, it will probably be going up to 6 meters wide as a single blind. So this is brilliant for those big bifold doors, for example, that people maybe don't want to split up because they don't want the light gaps between the blinds. Or the other scenario we've seen this is bedroom spaces having a whole wall of glazing, maybe overlooking some fabulous gardens or grounds of the house. But again, they don't want to have light gaps or privacy gaps by splitting up that big area of glazing. But the most important thing about Evolve Zero is it's not just huge widths, it's huge widths on incredibly compact hardware. So we can span 5 meters wide on a 44 millimeter aluminium tube. If anyone in this audience, I know some of you certainly are very familiar with blinds, you'll know that that is absolutely unheard of anywhere else in the market. If you ask most manufacturers to make you a 5 meter wide blind, they're going to be telling you it's on a 90, 110, 130 millimeter tube. And of course, as soon as you've got a tube of that size, you've got to hide that somewhere. It's going to look enormous, quite frankly. And you've got the challenge of making it look good or hiding it in a ceiling. And those things can be very difficult. Evolve Zero overcomes that with some amazing technology by one of our partners in the Czech Republic. They've invented what we call zero technology. And very simply, what we do is we calculate how much that tube is going to bend when you suspend it between its brackets. So we look at the size of the blind, we look at the weight of the fabric, the weight of the bottom bar, we look at all the parameters of the blind, and we calculate how much is that tube going to bend. And we then bend a smaller steel tube to the opposite deflection. So essentially, you've got an outer aluminium tube that wants to turn into a U shape and bend downwards under the weight of the fabric. And then we have a smaller steel tube that is pre-tensioned to bend upwards. And we slide the steel tube inside the aluminium tube, and you get this perfectly flat, incredibly compact tube that can span these enormous widths. And I think this is a really good point of difference to be able to give to your clients, because several years ago, not many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, this technology is absolutely unheard of. And it would have been impossible to make a 5 meter wide blind with such small hardware. So it's a really good one to bear in mind. So we then move on to the fully framed blinds. So this again is a roller blind system, but this is where you're maybe looking for complete light exclusion. And we're very careful here not to use the word blackout or complete blackout. It's very tempting to get drawn into a conversation with a client where they're asking you for 100% blackout or complete blackout. And the reality is, it's going to be very, very hard for you to achieve that. Because even if the blind itself completely excludes any light, the chances are that the recess that you're fitting it into is not perfect, and there's probably going to be some light bleed around it. And trust me, the more holes you fill and the more cracks you pack, the more obvious any tiny little chinks of light appear. So don't get drawn into promising a client 100% blackout, because you will regret it at some point. We've all been there. But these systems, CuroLock, ExtraLock, Curo, are, I would say, as good as you could possibly expect. Like these give you the best level of light exclusion that you could ever expect from a blind. So just to explain the key differences, CuroLock has zipped edge technology. That means the fabric is mechanically held into the side channels. That means it doesn't get pushed out or blown out. It means it's low maintenance. You won't get callbacks from a client saying, "Oh, my fabric's come out of the side channels, and can you come and sort it for me?" On the other hand, Curo is a non-zipped system, so this is a kind of a legacy product, but it's still being used in some applications because it is a bit cheaper than CuroLock. But the fabric is not mechanically held in the channels. It just runs freely in the channel, which means that if you leave a window open behind a Curo system, the fabric is likely to get sucked out of the channels. So again, if you came along to OneAV and you ask them for a blackout blind, a full blackout blind, then they would be putting forward CuroLock. And on that point, another really important thing to understand when you're talking to clients is they'll sometimes ask you for a blackout blind, and all they actually mean is just a roller blind with blackout fabric on, no side channels, no head box. So I think it's really important that you do that kind of discovery process with a client and identify exactly what they are expecting, because obviously the cost difference between a standard roller blind with blackout fabric and a fully framed headbox side channel system is quite dramatic. There is a big difference between the two, both in terms of price and performance. So really key to understand what you're getting and what you're giving to clients. XtraLock then looks exactly like CuroLock externally, visually, but it is specifically designed for leisure centres and swimming pool environments. So those private pools in the homes that we're sometimes doing, XtraLock is perfect for that. It's independently C4 rated for corrosive internal environments, and because of that, we can give it a 3-year warranty. If you get a blind from almost any other manufacturer, if it doesn't have that C4 certification, the chances are they are not going to be able to provide you any form of warranty if it's being used in a swimming pool environment, just simply because the humidity and the chlorine in the atmosphere is so damaging to some of the blind components. So, roof lantern blinds. This is a really big part of what we do. So we see orders for roof lantern blinds like every day, every week. It's one of the most common one-off products that we do because people are doing orangeries, flat roof extensions, all that kind of thing in their homes. They've been super popular for a number of years now. And I think that the key differences to understand here is that you have the CuroLock RL and then the Twin RL. The CuroLock RL is where the fabric pulls from one end only and it pulls all the way across the window. Whereas the CuroLock Twin RL is where you have fabric coming from both ends, closing to a center point. So a really good application for the CuroLock Twin RL is maybe where a client wants to control the light coming into their 5-meter long lantern opening, and they want to control it in a much more granular way. So they want to be able to close one end or open the other end. The other interesting application for this is where someone has a centerpiece in their roof lantern. So for example, a chandelier hanging down inside the roof lantern that the blind could then close up to from each side. I would say that the CuroLock RL is certainly the most popular option. It's the most common one that we would do. It's capable of some really big sizes, 3 meters by 5.5 meters. And also importantly, it can be mains powered or battery powered. And I think this is a really important point to note, particularly on the roof blinds, because the tendency, unfortunately, is that people will have these extensions done. They get this lovely big roof lantern put in, brings in tons of natural light, and on a bright day, it's really nice. It's, it makes the room feel nice and airy and light. And then it's not until they actually move in that they realize that if it's sunny, that space is too bright, and and at night time, that space is actually gets quite dark as well, because you've suddenly got this enormous hole in your roof that is now a big black hole. So we see people wanting to put in roof lantern blinds, A, to block out the sunlight and manage the heat, but also B, to close off that big black hole at night and pull a white fabric across that makes the room just feel a little bit lighter and brighter in the evenings. And for that reason, unfortunately, people don't tend to think of putting power in these roof lanterns. So having the battery option is really important. And the battery option is great because it has a couple of components to it. It has an external battery pack and it has an external solar panel. The solar panel is really important because that lets the battery pack trickle charge all the time. So what it's essentially doing is massively reducing the amount of times that you might need to get to the roof lantern and charge up the battery pack. In many situations, they won't need to charge it at all because it's literally just going to constantly trickle charge itself. The other good thing about having the external battery pack versus having the battery built into the blind and the motor is, as we all know, batteries have a relatively limited lifetime. We've all got phones. We all know, that our phone battery performance decreases over time, and in many situations over not a very long period of time. So if, let's say, after 3 years, you get a client saying, oh, do you know what, my battery is just not holding its charge like it used to, it's just a case of selling them a new battery and going back, unclipping the external battery pack and clipping in the new one. No need to dismantle or destruct anything. It's literally just a straight swap over. So it means that the hardware of their blind, that quite frankly should last for years and years and years, is preserved intact, whilst they can continue to maintain the control system and the batteries that are powering it. So that's the roof system. We then have the curtains and Roman blind systems. So these were very much, I would say, add-on products for Umbra 4 or 5 years ago. These are products that we saw where people were having maybe 10 roller blinds, electric roller blinds in their house, and they would then be having maybe 1 or 2 curtain tracks. And Umbra was losing out because we weren't supplying the curtain tracks as well as the blinds. And so I think it's been a really important addition to the range. It's to have the curtain tracks and the Roman blinds. I would say you probably will find that these aren't high volume items, but they're very, very easy to install. And I think for that reason, it's well worth offering them to clients because they're good. It's good product value, and it's like I say, so it's a really easy install. It's a much easier install to install a curtain track than it is to install a tension roof system, for example. So really important one to bear in mind. And again, with these products, as with all the roller blind based products that we offer, you have mains powered and battery powered options. So even with the curtain tracks, you have battery curtain motors. And it's also really important to know and to kind of bear this in mind, that just because it's battery powered doesn't mean it's necessarily inferior or worse in any way. I think there's been a bit of a tendency, particularly with the curtain products, to think of the curtain battery motors as being, a bit of a, something that maybe shouldn't really be used unless it absolutely has to be. Whereas I would say that battery powered curtain tracks for a retrofit scenario where you can't run cabling are absolutely fantastic. Batteries will last 8 to 12 months, no problem at all. We have a curtain motor that can pull 45 kilos of curtain weight with a battery. And the batteries are literally like a drill battery. They snap into the bottom of the curtain motor, which is always accessible. And so when you want to charge it, you literally just snap it out and go and charge it. And if you want, you can always sell the client a second battery to pop in whilst they're charging the other one. So it's a really, really easy product to have and to retrofit and not have any cabling at all. And of course, the wireless integration as well is totally possible with the curtain tracks too. With the Roman blinds, you'll find that there are a lot of cheap electric Roman headrail systems out there on the market, and you may well find that you have clients who say, "Oh well, I can buy this online for £150, or I can source this myself." The important thing for you to know as installers is that the chances are what they're buying online is probably a little 25mm Roman headrail. It probably has a maximum width of maybe 2 meters, 1.8 meters maybe, and it has a very low lifting capacity. It can't lift a very big blind or very, very heavy blinds. And also, most importantly, for these prime and super prime properties, those little 25mm Roman headrails, the motors in them are super noisy. They're horrible, buzzy, whiny things that no one really wants in their window. So with Cascade, the Roman headrail that we supply, we can use any roller blind motor in this system. So that means we can use mains voltage, 24 volt, or battery motors, and we can use motors that are extremely quiet, soft start, soft stop, and you can add a real touch of luxury to their Roman systems with this headrail. Yes, it's more expensive than anything they'll be buying online, but it's also a much, much better product and also much easier to integrate. Your integration options with Cascade will be exponentially more than they are with anything that your customer has sourced online. Fabrics, there are thousands and thousands of fabrics, and to be honest, this may be one of the most daunting parts of selling blinds, but it doesn't need to be. And if I can just share, the honest truth of this is, right, that I wouldn't be in this business if for me, if Umbra was all about soft furnishings and patterned fabrics and thousands of fabric choices and curtains and frilly linings and all of that kind of stuff, like that would not interest me at all. Like, it's not, for me, it's the technology here that is the amazing part and the bit that holds the most value and the most interest, in my opinion. But fabrics are absolutely critical, and if you're going to offer fabrics, it's really important that you do what I've done, and that is overcome your hesitance about fabric collections and kind of get stuck into them. Learn which ones are good for what. Learn about blackout fabrics, light filtering fabrics, sunscreen fabrics. Learn about the different backing types, like the aluminium backing or the white backing. Learn about the different percentage openness factors. And once you actually start to understand the role that fabrics play on a roller blind system, you'll actually discover that there's much more of a science to creating the perfect roller blind that does exactly what the client wants it to do than you maybe first thought. And we've tried to make this as simple as possible because we have a fabric collection that OneAV are offering. And I believe they have a really good deal on it that they're going to be offering. But that fabric collection has 3 folders in it. It has a blackout folder, a light filtering folder, and a screen folder. So you can pull those out, and every folder has an A5 piece of every single color in it. So what that means is you can go to your client with the fabric collection, the Umbra fabric collection. You don't really need anything else outside of that because it really does cover all of your bases for all your different fabric options, and you can get it out in front of the client, and you can put it out on the table, and they can pull out pieces of fabric, hold them up in front of the window in all the different colors, and make their choices. And to be honest, they will do that for you. Like, the client will do that. They'll kind of take that responsibility off you. If you put that folder in front of them, they'll get stuck in and go, oh, I like that, don't like that. Yep, that one's a good one. And they'll make their decisions, because that folder enables them to see all of the options at a really nice size, in a really nice size piece of fabric. The other resource we have with this is the online resource. So what you'll find when you buy your fabric collection is that every fabric card has a QR code, which you or the client can scan, and it'll take you to the online page for that fabric, which gives you a ton more information about the different specifications, the performance, the material composition, and all the other stuff that some clients will want to get stuck into. Concealment then, this is a really important one, I think. And I think that many of you will be aware of this, but blind space is the system that we use. So this is a blind concealment pocket that lets you hide blinds in the ceiling. So it makes the blinds completely disappear and gives you that really seamless look, really clean look of the window. But the really critical thing about this is it has to be thought about at an early stage of the project. This has got to be drawn in. This has got to be like thought about before all the dry lining's done, before all the stud work's up. This needs to be thought about by the architect. And from what I've seen, you guys are in a really good position to actually put this forward, because generally the AV company or the AV guy is on site much earlier than any blinds companies are. So you've got a real good early doors opportunity to get something specified into the project that's going to set you in a really good position to then come back to it when they're ready for blinds and be like, hey, remember we advised you on that concealment? Well, are you ready to talk about what goes in there? And I think that's really important. You actually have quite a head start on most projects over any of the blinds companies out there in the industry, because most of the blinds companies will only get called in once the project's done. And most of our blinds customers are dealing predominantly with retrofit scenarios, because the blinds have just been treated like a bit of an afterthought, a bit of a soft furnishing. And so the wiring's not being thought about, the concealment's not being thought about. And so it's almost a different product and a different market that they're having to deal with. And then finally, who can we connect with? What can our blinds be controlled by? And the answer is pretty much anything. I've just put some of the common names up there. But I would say that if you come along with almost any control system, we'll find a way of making it work. Whether that's through a digital signal, RS485, RS232, or whether it's contact closure, or whether it's live main switching, there are ways of making it work. And we can, with OneAV, we can advise you on the best way of making that happen and doing the integration. And of course, if it's early enough, we can advise you on the wiring to put in. Or if you're in a situation where the cabling's already been done, tell us what's in there and we can talk you through your options. Obviously, we would rather be involved early enough to specify the wiring, because then we can give you the best options available. But if wiring is already there, then we'll do our best to work with whatever you have and find you a solution. So, Joe, hopefully you've been able to hear me through my long ramblings, and hopefully some of that was useful.
It was. So what I'm going to do, thank you for that. If anyone's got any questions, I'm now just going to unmute everyone. And if anyone has got any questions, feel free to come out. Actually, before I do that, one thing I'm going to say, you mentioned about the fabric collection and the promotion we're offering. Essentially, what we're going to do is, so I believe the standard price on that fabric collection is $489, but the promotion we're going to run is basically, if you buy a fabric collection, your next 4 orders will credit off that 489 split over your next 4 orders of Umbra blinds. So essentially what it means is if you decide to invest in that, get yourself a fabric collection, and we've got a couple of them here and they're out all the time on loan, they're lovely. If you would like your own one, we will basically subsidise that for you. So we will get you one and then credit it off. So you're so essentially within 4 orders it will have paid for itself. So what I'm going to do now is, I haven't had any questions on the chat, but I am going to unmute everyone. If anyone wants to ask anything, just ask. Let's kind of unmute everyone. No, it's not letting me unmute everyone. I'll tell you, if anyone's got any questions, just quickly type them in the chat and I'll read them. Yeah, so pricing wise, I actually can. Let me show you something. It's a good question, Mark. Let me find some pricing we've done. Give me a second. So as an example, let's just see. What we're typically finding is that we're tending to be cheap. You know, your Luttrons and your silent glisses, decently cheaper, but actually with no compromise on quality. So I'm having a problem getting by. Give me a sec. Let's have a look. Right, just give me a second.
Whilst you're doing that, Joe, maybe I can jump in and answer some of these other questions that are popping in.
Yeah.
So size of the solar pack. So if you're talking about the actual solar panel, we're looking at, it's about 30 centimeters, about 300 mil long, by about 50, 60 mil wide. So it would normally sit on, in a roof light scenario, it would normally sit on top of the head box where the roller blind is. So it's kind of out of sight from below, but it's, you know, getting direct sunlight down straight on top of it. We've got curtain tracks compared to Luttrons and Crestrons. So Joe's going to share some pricing in a minute, but in terms of the actual product, you'll find, just to give you an example, I have a customer who has our curtain track, a Luttron curtain track, and a silent gliss curtain track, all in the same room with the same type of curtain on them. And the actual noise, the noise, there's almost no difference in noise level. The actual noise quality, or the type of noise, is very slightly different. Like, it's a slightly different kind of noise that you hear, but they're all very, very comparable in terms of noise levels, and in terms of specification and performance, you'll find them very, very comparable.
So I've just, I don't know if everyone can see, I've just opened up my my sheet. But I mean, to give you an example, you know, let's take something standard. So we go. Why isn't my sheet letting me edit? Well, we can use these two examples. I mean, in this too, we've got, this is a actually a Curolock quote I did for someone, looking for some options for pricing. But I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, typically, so the margin we're operating on is basically everything's at 38%. So there is a healthy margin in there for you. And when we've compared it against, you know, as I said, your Luttrons, your silent glisses, we're typically finding that this price is generally for comparable sort of blind against blind, same dimensions, Umbra's working out at about sort of about 40% cheaper than Lutron. I can't remember what the exact figures are. We're on Silent Gliss, but that's kind of where we're ending up when we're doing quotes like for like against Lutron. That's kind of where we're finding we end up. And as I say, we've got this pricing tool. So if you've just got projects that you've already priced up with something else, just send me over the details. I can very quickly put it into this for you, and then I'll send it back with a quote. So at least you've got a comparison to go against if you're sort of finding that customers are kind of quibbling on price, which, to be honest with you, we're finding happens more and more at the moment. I think with the sort of state of things, people are looking to potentially, reduce budgets for these sort of projects, but don't want to reduce on the quality. And I think that's why we're finding at the moment that Umbra is in such a great place as a brand, because they've got the products, they've got the knowledge. They really know what they're doing when it comes to blinds. I find it quite. I had no idea until I went and met everyone just quite how much there was to consider in a blind, but the technology is unbelievable. But yeah, this is kind of where we're falling on pricing. But as I say, by all means, if you want some pricing, just fire me over some quick dimensions or anything. So yeah, Mark wants some roof light examples. Okay, let's see if we can do one of those quickly.
Whilst you're doing that, just so on curtains, asking about third-party fabrics. So yeah, absolutely. So we don't actually make curtains, and we don't make Roman blind fabrics. Normally, we found that clients have already engaged an interior designer or a soft furnishings person who is looking after that. So more, sort of 9 times out of 10, we're just providing the curtain track or the Roman blind headrail, and then the client or interior designer is mounting the curtains on that. If you are in a situation where you need to provide curtains, then we can easily put you in touch with a curtain workroom. But that's, yeah, normally we wouldn't get involved in the manufacturing of those. That's sort of an interior design led piece. Compared to maybe roller blinds, I should say, if a client has a fabric they want to use on a roller blind, the answer is maybe. They might be able to. The important thing with roller blinds is the fabric has to be suitable for a roller blind. So, for example, curtain fabrics can't be used on a roller blind as they are, because they're they're not stiff enough, they're too floppy, they won't hang nicely. However, if you have a client that's insistent on using their own fabric on a roller blind, there are processes that can be put in place. So fabrics can be processed to make them stiffer, to give them a backing, or make them firmer, to make them suitable for roller blinds. So that is an option that we can do, but again, with that, we tend to find it being quite an expensive option. And to be honest, most people will tend to pick something out of the Umbra collection. Although obviously, if a client has a fabric and it is an actual roller blind fabric, then again, yeah, we could use that, no problem at all. But again, most times people are picking something out of our collection.
Mark, I will follow up. For some reason, my spreadsheet isn't pulling prices for the roof lighting, the roof shades. So I'll just try to price a quick twin. For some reason, not calculating. I'll have to ask why that is. But I'll drop you an email after this with some examples. I'll figure out why that isn't happening. There's a question here about hem bars, Harry. We haven't really touched on that, but you got a few options for those, right?
Yes. Yeah. There's a document that can be shared that's got all the different hem bar options on. Fabric wrapped or exposed aluminium hem bars, which then can obviously be custom colored. So normally most hardware comes in black and white as standard, but then it can be custom powder coated to any RAL color, which obviously has an extra cost and normally adds about a week to the lead time.
There's another question here about, did you answer this one about combining 2 blind or two different fields. I had this question the other day actually, and I wasn't sure on the best solution. If you had a space where you wanted two different fabrics,
Yeah.
Is there a way of approaching that? Could you fit two motors in a single head box?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways of doing it. You either obviously just fit them as two completely separate blinds, or we do have double, like dual brackets for some solutions. And to be honest, they normally end up getting custom made. It's not a difficult or particularly expensive process. But normally the reason for doing a custom bracket or custom dual bracket is because there's a specific size or shape of space available, and we will configure the bracket to suit the space essentially. So the blinds could obviously either be side by side, or they could be stacked or staggered diagonally or directly above each other. So depending on the space that's available, we can tailor something for that scenario.
Okay. And Mark has another project asking about calibrating the hem bars so they're in sync. Now I know you can do this. I've seen it in your training. I do vaguely remember.
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. Yeah, you can. The slightly longer answer is yeah, it's best with digital motors. So there's a smart motor that we use, and with that you can adjust both the RPM of the motor and also the runtime of the motor. So essentially you can have two blinds side by side, and you can tell them both to reach their top limit in 25 seconds, let's say. And they will both take exactly 25 seconds, and they will run together to that point. So as long as your top and your bottom limit positions are the same, then yeah, that's absolutely doable.
Andy, in regards to your question, at the moment we're looking for a way of. The trouble is you can't share the sheet publicly at the moment because obviously it's got a lot of pricing information on it, and there's a lot of information. There's a huge. The things that are going on in the background of that sheet are utterly terrifying, but we are looking at a way of kind of producing something so that you can price them yourself. But at the moment, yeah, just email us in and we'll sort out pricing. But we will hopefully find a way of doing that. Question from George: are there any ordering guides or installation guides? Yeah,
absolutely. I'm just going to put a link on the chat now. There's a site called docs.umbrashading.co.uk. And that has kind of everything on it that you could want, I think. So it has all your motor specifications, all your product specs, all your product drawings, PDFs, DWG files, installation guides. Yeah, everything is on that site, and it's a completely open site for information available to anybody to grab off there.
Fantastic. Oh, and I guess something else that might come up for these guys, obviously installing control systems, but from last time I checked, like APIs and things were pretty readily available for integrating. I know certainly on the Sonkly side of things, that was all available because we worked on a project with HC Anywhere to get you controlling blinds using APIs. So for any of you guys that kind of like to do things more custom, or want to integrate it with something slightly unusual outside of your normal sequels and Crestrons, that can also be done. We have some experience there because we've done it ourselves. Another from George: what's your typical ETA?
So most products are on a 10 working day lead time. Yeah, from all final details being confirmed through to dispatch, 10 working days. If it's got some custom colors or something bespoke on it, it might add a week or two. But yeah, that's typically what we're looking at.
Fantastic. Andy Seabrooks asks BMX.
Yeah, you might have looked on docs.umbrashading. BMX is short for blind matrix, right, which is a new tool coming out very, very shortly for online pricing portal that we will be discussing with OneAV once that is launched, and hopefully you can have access to it and might well answer Andy's question.
Yeah, it's tricky with price. It's one of those products where we certainly had challenges because you've got so many options. Putting it into like a traditional pricing structure is quite tricky. So at the moment we're doing things manually in sheets, but hopefully down the line we'll have a sort of a smarter way of sorting orders. Anyway, that's us at 12, and that's neatly took us to the end of our question. So thank you everyone for coming. One last thing I'll touch on. We've talked about sort of doing in-person training. I would strongly recommend getting yourself booked to go down to Umbra and do their training day. I've done it. It's amazing. Their facility is fantastic. What's going to be happening is after this, we'll be sending out emails to everyone, where if you would like to get booked on to do in-person training with Harry and the guys down in Swansea, then, or it might be not even down in Swansea, it might be to the left of Swansea for some of you. Yeah, we'll sort you out how to do that and let you know. All right, thanks a lot, guys. And thank you, Harry.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks, everyone. Catch you soon.